Hello and welcome to In the Word, your weekday worship guide, brought to you by Ada Christian Reformed Church. Hello and welcome. My name is Jacob Toman. I'm the lead pastor at Ada CRC, and it's my pleasure today to be chatting with you about our upcoming chapters that we'll be reading this week, Exodus chapters 26 through 30. In these chapters, the law of God shifts in its focus. While previously the focus of the law was on social and individual behavior for the redeemed people of God that we saw in the last 5 chapters of Exodus, in chapters 26 through 30, the focus is mostly on sacred space and sacred garments. We could say these chapters are about furniture and furnishings, the decor that would denote the gathering space of God among his people. This decor would carry with it an implicit demand for decorum, reverence among the people of God, as the blessing and beauty of God's presence was experienced. For some, sacred space is a beach, a sunset, a forest, or a field. In these spaces, we have a unique appreciation, a focused moment wherein we experience the particular wonder, amazement, and joy of beholding the beauty of God's being reflected in his creative majesty. The Apostle Paul sought a special place near the river outside of Philippi to speak to God in prayer. We find that in Acts 16:13. Jesus would often withdraw himself from the crowds he attracted, and sometimes would leave his closest friends to enjoy time on the side of a mountain, like in Luke 6, verses 12 through 13, or in the wilderness, alone with his Father in Luke 5, verse 16. Of course, sacred space isn't so much about the space itself as it is about the Divine One occupying it. Earlier in our readings of Exodus, we read about a space that became a special place due to God's presence, the burning bush. We read in Exodus 3:5, "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." The place became special, set apart, and sacred as a result of God's occupying use of that space in meeting with Moses. As we read about cloth lengths, decorative pieces of art, beautiful architecture in a mobile tent of meeting, and priestly garments, we are invited to see the beauty of God's own character in the beauty of the space prepared to meet with God. The tabernacle, which is a word that means tent of meeting, was to be a throne room, a meeting hall, a royal court, a sanctuary for sacrifices to be offered, a place of prayer, and a war room, all wrapped up into a single space. I remember getting to walk through the Oval Office and West Wing of the White House prior to 2001. All of the paintings on the walls, the carpet on the floors, and the desks and books on the shelves all denoted the office of the President of the United States. From the windows to the walls, everything portrayed the dignity, prestige, and authority of the commander-in-chief. There was no aspect of the building that could be mistaken for who occupied and used the building. Just as spaces today signify their use and the glory of the ones who use the space, so too with the ancient meeting place of God with his beloved people. We learn much about God and redeemed humanity in these chapters. We learn about the worthiness of God to be worshipped, his glorious divine majesty, and the beauty that reflects his holiness. And we also learn about the people God calls into worship and service of his name. The Lord instructs for the meeting place and the meeting participants to be properly adorned for the occasion of meeting. This ought to give us cause to pause and consider how we live as we have the privilege of meeting with God in sacred, quiet places alone and in crowds for communal worship together. Is the majesty, might, and glory of God on display in the attitudes of our hearts and the readiness of our preparations to meet with the living, redeeming, triune God? Thanks so much for joining us this week. If you've got any questions about anything that we're reading about together in God's Word, you can always reach out. My email address is pastorjacob@adacrc.org. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your reading, and I'll catch you next week.